Kevin Costner has always been one of Hollywood's most respected figures. Calm, grounded, quietly powerful. He's played the hero, the cowboy, the protector. On and off screen, he's maintained a reputation of integrity in an industry built on illusion. But recently something changed. In a rare, unscripted moment, during a private panel discussion that was never meant to go public, Costner opened up in a way no one saw coming. The event was intimate, closed off to press, but someone in the room hit record. What he said shocked even those who've worked alongside him for decades. With measured calm and undeniable gravity, Costner described the darkness he's witnessed in Hollywood. The actors who manipulate, destroy, and deceive not just for roles, but for control. He didn't call them difficult or toxic. He called them evil. Not metaphorically, not playfully, but evil in the truest, most disturbing sense of the word. He spoke of betrayal, cruelty, and silent corruption that spreads behind the cameras, stories hidden behind charming smiles and red carpet glamour. And when the clip leaked, the internet exploded. Fans began dissecting every word, speculating who he meant. But what they didn't expect was that the names were real, that the man who had built his career on dignity and restraint had finally decided to speak. And now the list is out. 9 actors, 9 stories, and one haunting truth. The Hollywood you thought you knew is far darker than you ever imagined. This is Kevin Costner's quiet war against evil, and the names he will never forgive. There's always been something different about Kevin Costner. He was never just another movie star chasing fame, flashing a grin, or playing the Hollywood game. He built a career on quiet strength, emotional depth, and a kind of masculine vulnerability that audiences trusted. From Dances with Wolves to The Bodyguard in Yellowstone, Costner became a symbol of integrity in an industry full of masks. But behind that calm exterior was a man watching it all, the politics, the manipulation, the smiling betrayals. And after more than 4 decades in the heart of Hollywood, Costner decided he had seen enough. During a closed-door gathering with a small group of filmmakers, he began to speak in a way that no one had ever heard before. His voice was low, his words slow and intentional. No cameras, no crowd, just truth, a quiet truth that sent chills down the spine of those listening. He didn't name them all at once. He told stories, painful, personal stories. He spoke about actors who used charm as a weapon, who would ruin reputations, sabotage careers, and manipulate entire productions for their own gain. These aren't people who are just tough to work with, he said. These are people who hurt others and know exactly what they're doing. People who will step over bodies just to get a close-up. At first, the room was stunned into silence. Was this the same Kevin Costner, who had always stayed neutral, always polite in interviews, always diplomatic about his peers? But there was no mistaking the edge in his voice. The anger was real, the scars deeper than anyone had realized. One of the names he mentioned had once been a co-star. Costner described how this actor spread false rumors about a producer's wife, just to get them fired and replaced with someone more loyal. Another actor, beloved by fans, adored by critics, had allegedly gaslighted a young actress to the brink of a breakdown, then laughed about it over drinks. The stories weren't vague. They were specific and they were horrifying. Costner had held this in for years. He had watched good people walk away from the industry, broken and forgotten, while these so-called stars continued to win awards and shake hands like nothing ever happened. Hollywood protects them, he said. It makes excuses for them. It calls them complicated, brilliant, misunderstood. But I've worked with them. I've seen what they are. And it's not complicated. It's evil. That word, evil, hung in the air like smoke. Not dramatic, not exaggerated. Just cold truth. And though Costner didn't give a formal list in that moment, the names began to spread. People in the room remembered. They connected dots. Stories began to leak. Fans, journalists, and former colleagues began comparing notes. And slowly the puzzle came together. 9 actors, 9 known faces, and one respected man finally refusing to stay silent. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about cancel culture. It was about something more profound, breaking the spell that Hollywood casts over its audience. For decades, Costner had watched fans idolize people who, behind the scenes, were destroying lives. And now, nearing the twilight of his career, he made a choice to let the truth speak. no matter the cost. The more Kevin Costner spoke, the darker the picture became, revealing an industry where the veneer of glamour barely concealed the chaos underneath. He recounted incidents that felt like cautionary tales, moments where ambition had mutated into cruelty, where talent had been weaponized to control, humiliate, and manipulate. One actor, he explained, had engineered conflicts on set so subtly that no one initially noticed, isolating colleagues and making them doubt their own abilities, all to ensure he would dominate the spotlight. Another, described as charming and approachable in public, was known for spreading false rumors that could end careers, wielding gossip like a dagger. Costner's voice was steady but heavy with disappointment, the kind only someone who has seen repeated injustice over decades can carry. He described watching rising stars crushed emotionally, producers forced to choose between maintaining their projects and protecting vulnerable colleagues, and how the so-called golden figures of Hollywood continued to smile in public, mask in place, never accountable for the harm they had caused. And yet, he emphasized, this wasn't about personal grudges. It wasn't gossip or vendetta. It was about recognizing patterns of behavior, about calling out the forces that ruin the lives of others while maintaining untouchable images. People need to see it for what it is, he said. Otherwise, it keeps happening. Costner paused, letting the weight of the words settle over the room. And that's when someone quietly asked what viewers needed to do. He looked directly, almost pleadingly, and said, "Pay attention. Question the narratives. Support the ones who do the right thing. And don't glorify cruelty just because it wears a pretty face." It was a rare glimpse into a moral compass rarely seen in Hollywood, a plea from someone who had lived inside the machine and witnessed firsthand the people who abused it. And here, for those watching, comes the call to action. Like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts, because understanding the truth depends on engagement and awareness, not silence. Every voice matters when exposing the darkness behind fame. Costner's revelations continued, and each story seemed more unsettling than the last. He spoke of colleagues who would intentionally sabotage scenes, ensuring others failed, or who manipulated contract negotiations to push out innocent collaborators. Names that had been untouchable for decades were now connected to real, verifiable acts of cruelty. And while some fans struggled to reconcile their image of these actors with what they were hearing, Costner reminded them that the masks in Hollywood are often unrecognizable once peeled away. He described seeing brilliant performers behave monstrously in private, reminding him that talent and evil can coexist in a single person. By the end of the evening, it was clear that Costner had delivered more than stories. He had issued a warning. These 9 actors, he insisted, were not merely flawed or difficult. They were dangerous to careers, to mental health, and to the very integrity of filmmaking itself. And for the first time, a figure of his stature had dared to name the truth out loud, leaving a mark that the industry would not forget. As the stories unfolded, it became clear that Kevin Costner had witnessed a kind of darkness that most of Hollywood preferred to ignore. He spoke of situations on set where actors deliberately undermined directors, rewrote scenes without permission, and created tension so extreme that entire crews were left emotionally drained. One tale involved a co-star who refused to speak to anyone off camera, intentionally creating an environment where even seasoned professionals second-guessed their work, all to assert dominance and control the narrative. Costner explained that this pattern repeated itself across productions, sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly, and yet it was rarely documented. Those in the room listened, horrified, as he recounted how some actors had cultivated personal vendettas, using fame and public adoration as shields while privately sabotaging careers. He detailed cases of manipulation, lies, and deliberate intimidation, emphasizing that these weren't isolated incidents but a recurring methodology that left lasting scars. Costner described watching young performers arrive full of hope, only to leave broken, anxious, and questioning their talent, while the same individuals who had caused the damage celebrated public acclaim, awards, and fan loyalty. What struck everyone listening was his calm precision. He wasn't exaggerating for effect. Every story was backed by experience, observation, and the grim truth of Hollywood's underbelly. He noted how these 9 actors wielded influence with terrifying effectiveness, often inspiring others to adopt similar ruthless tactics simply to survive. Costner himself had been in positions where refusing to play along could mean career repercussions, and he spoke candidly about the moral compromises that so many felt forced to make. Yet he distinguished himself by remaining principled, highlighting that integrity in the industry is rare, but necessary. And while fans may find it shocking, he insisted it was vital to confront these truths, to recognize that behind every award-winning smile could lurk cruelty, calculation, and a willingness to harm others for self-interest. Even those who appeared charming, philanthropic, or charismatic were not exempt from scrutiny. The point, Costner explained, wasn't to ruin legacies arbitrarily, but to illuminate a pattern of behavior, to show that fame and power can sometimes amplify the worst in human nature. By the end of the evening, the audience understood that Hollywood's shining lights could cast the darkest shadows, and that awareness was the only defense. The stories of betrayal, intimidation, and concealed malice were now part of the public record through those who had listened and later shared the accounts. And though he never named all 9 in that moment, his words were enough to send ripples across the industry, prompting former collaborators, insiders, and fans alike to re-examine what they thought they knew. Kevin Costner had broken an unspoken code of silence, and in doing so, he revealed a sobering truth. Talent alone does not dictate morality, and the glittering veneer of Hollywood can hide darkness far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. By the time Kevin Costner concluded his revelations, the weight of his words had settled like a shadow over Hollywood's glittering facade. He reminded everyone that fame and talent are not shields against moral failure, and that the 9 actors he spoke of had repeatedly demonstrated a willingness to manipulate, harm, and betray those around them, often with chilling precision. Costner painted a portrait of a world where charm can be weaponized, smiles can conceal malice, and public adoration can mask the most destructive behavior. He recounted incidents where careers were derailed by lies spread in whispers, reputations shredded by subtle manipulation, and trust shattered by calculated cruelty, all while the culprits maintained their status, their accolades and their fan base seemingly untouchable. But the stories weren't just about Hollywood gossip. They were about real human cost. Young actors who were full of hope found themselves isolated, anxious, and doubting their worth, while productions crumbled under the pressure of unseen vendettas. Costner emphasized that these patterns were not random but intentional, illustrating a methodical cruelty that left lasting scars on everyone involved. And yet, despite the darkness, there was a reason he had chosen to speak: accountability. By sharing what he knew, by refusing to let the industry's shiny surface conceal its toxic core, Costner hoped to inspire vigilance, empathy, and courage among those still navigating the system. He urged viewers and colleagues alike to pay attention, to question narratives, and to support integrity over manipulation, reminding them that silence can be complicit. For fans, it was a wake-up call. For insiders, a validation of experiences long dismissed or minimized. The stories of these 9 actors, while shocking, serve as a reminder that celebrity does not equal virtue, and admiration does not guarantee honesty. Costner's disclosure also highlighted a personal ethos rarely witnessed in Hollywood, a commitment to truth even when inconvenient, even when dangerous. He had spent decades maintaining a reputation of professionalism, yet he now risked backlash to shine a light on what too often remains hidden. And as the audience absorbed his words, it became clear that this was more than an exposé. It was a moral reckoning, a call to recognize the disparity between public persona and private behavior, and a challenge to hold even the most revered figures accountable. In the end, Kevin Costner's message is both stark and haunting. The industry we celebrate for its stars is also one where darkness thrives behind the camera, where evil can wear a familiar face, and where vigilance, integrity, and courage are the only shields against the harm that unchecked ambition can inflict. The revelation of these 9 actors is not just gossip. It is a warning, a glimpse into a world few dare to examine, and a testament to the rare bravery of a man willing to name what most pretend does not exist.